we're here with Gil Jacobs. He's a renowned colon hydrotherapist and recently opened a new space called Vibrant Sea in the East Village, which also has infrared saunas and this really amazing flotation tank. So Gil, it's really awesome to meet you in person.
Likewise.
And thank you for letting us in the space. It's really cool.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad you like it.
How did this all evolve? I mean, how long have you been doing the colon hydrotherapy, and then?
Well, the colonics I've been doing for over 25 years as a therapist. I got deathly ill when I was 23, and I tell people this because one of the things that kind of saddens me when you hear a lot of people in the radical progressive health movement is there's this great need to appear infallible, all-knowing, and never bending. And it's a shame because all it does is intimidate people, and it's also a lie. So I come right out and tell everybody, I got into this because when I was 22, the woman I was madly in love with decided to marry the son of the owner of the Oods potato chip company, and I was very depressed. So I drank hydrochloric acid, which can kill you if it gets in your eye. It can kill you if it gets on a sensitive part of your skin. I drank it. I should have been dead. And my guts started coming up like stewed tomatoes. Like, wow. It was like, oh, look at this. Like, and I realized then I don't want to die. So I drank a quart of milk, they call it the poison, which shows how thick the mucus of milk is. Went to an emergency room, told them a lie that I had an accident in a chem lab. And then the greatness of modern medicine kicks in. You know, a lot of radical alternative health people, they get very linear and very dualistic. There are things that modern medicine are good at, and unnatural occurrences is their strength. You get shot with a gun, you fall off a cliff, you get burned, stabbed, you can't do wheatgrass, right? You have to go to a doctor. So I had done this ridiculously unnatural, stupid thing to myself. And they did all these druggy things to me to keep me alive. But the acid had seeped so deep into the tissue that it was rotting away. And within about 5 or 6 months, I lost about 35 pounds. My skin turned green because of the lack of liver function. My left kidney totally stopped. It was at that point that the edema in my ankles got so fat, true story. This measurement on me was bigger than this one for about 2 or 3 years of my life. My teeth rotted out, I was bald. I was a chrome dome after about, this all grew back like a chia pet from being into this life. So I was deathly ill, went in and out of hospitals for a year. There was nothing they could do after that. They didn't know about the subtlety of being inflamed and acidic and all these things. And then a friend gave me an alternative healing book, which was not a good one, but it got me into looking into it. And then when I read The Mucusless Diet Healing System, the greatest, and in a lot of ways the only health book ever written, I got it. And I was like, okay, now I get it. And then from that, the colonics, the juicing, the saunas, the abstinence from too much bad food, the peace of mind, the oxygen, you know, the kind of John Wooden, the basketball coach, run but don't hurry, where you do things with a zeal but not with a mania, which if you know people in the health movement, there's way too much mania, there's way too much hurrying, need to be perfect. I got all these things. I met some awesome people, Victor Kulvinskis, who was the student of Van Wigmore, and over the course of cleansing realized that the biggest healing element is repetition. People tend to think, I'm going to be given this information, then there's more and there's more. There really isn't. There's a core little genius body of simplicity that when applied with time creates an improved and improved and improved organism. And organically, I'm in much better shape now than when I was 45, which is 13 years ago. And I'm doing the same thing. I didn't find anything new to make me that way. The repetition of the life improves the organism. So colonics, which is the main thing we do, the radical diet, and the ease around it, the internal ease that makes the process work. That's the core. We brought the flow tank in basically because it's a concept I had tried in the early 90s. I traded with a friend and I loved it. And then the flow tanks all disappeared because people were in a really bad germ head because of the AIDS stuff going around. Everybody was afraid to touch anything that someone else touched, and the flow tanks went away. So I wanted to kind of try to bring it back. The concept is based on the Dead Sea. I mean, people go to the Dead Sea to heal, and whether they know it or not, the main reason they get better is because the volume of salt in that water is the most intense anywhere on the globe. So this is basically a urban mini duplication of the Dead Sea. What I love about this thing in this particular city, and I can't say this applies to everywhere, but in a city like Manhattan, LA, Tokyo, these things are vital, especially for people into this lifestyle, because this lifestyle tends to attract, as you know, aesthetics, what I lovingly call the painters and poets. It attracts people from a heart chakra who really their skill, as I am one of them, is not earning money. That's not my skill. Most of my clients, it's not their skill. I know brilliant, creative, layered, conscious people, like phenomenal people, but they're not earners because that's not where they go.
Yeah.
If you live in a city like Manhattan, Brooklyn, LA, I'm sure, Geneva, Tokyo, if you choose to live there, and these are awesome cities, you must earn. So for an aesthetic, it puts this great heat and stress to survive. It puts them into an endurance mode. And if we know about biochemistry, we know that stress and lack of internal peace creates free radical, which is a poisonous chemical that gets secreted in the blood. And that's why when people like Louise Hay and Anita Moorjani, they all speak about the emotional components, the love component, and healing. That sounds all up here, but it's actually biochemistry. Because when we're angry, when we're heartbroken, when we're nervous, anxious, stressed, whatever negative emotion is pouring through, the chemical, the free radical, is rampant in our cells. So I call it intravenous Haagen-Dazs. Meaning that whether you know it or not, you're feeding yourself poison because of this stress level. Now, when we look at people in Manhattan, especially people who come to a place like this, as I said, they're aesthetics. They're in a constant state of stress. They need something mechanical, biochemical, to just help them get a peace. That's why I love this thing. Okay, it attracts people who are of a certain consciousness where they just need some cellular peace. You know, I have a lot of friends where paying the rent is an accomplishment, and these are good, brilliant people. They're just not earners. So no matter how many yoga classes you take, this is a pragmatic world. That puts a stress. This takes it out.